If you've come for the conversation about agriculture, you're in the wrong room. We're here to talk about mining and the future of mining, and we're joined by Robert Friedland, who really needs no introduction yet. Of course, I will introduce him in any case. Robert, you've been called one of the most successful miners on the planet, one of the best explorers for critical minerals, a man quite literally gifted with the Midas touch. You've made, what, 7, 8 virgin discoveries in I don't know how many countries, in Canada, in Mongolia, in the Democratic Republic of Congo. What brings you to Kazakhstan?
We're no strangers to Kazakhstan. We love this country. We first came here in the 1990s. It's stunning to see how much has been achieved in this country by the educated young population. From a geological perspective, Kazakhstan sits on the Trans-Tethys Belt, a giant zipper on the planet that carries mineralization from the Balkans in Europe, through Turkey, across Iran, through Afghanistan, through Western China, Kazakhstan, very much on that belt, and then into Mongolia. So it sits on a Silk Road of mineralization where our planet was sutured together. If we drill under our feet, it's hot down there and it's liquid. And as the plate has cooled, Kazakhstan is a place that is very highly mineralized, sitting next to China, which is the largest consumer of all materials. Very, very favorable location, very favorable and lucky for the Kazakh population. And I'm amazed that I came here when this place was called Akmola, and there was nothing here in the 1990s. And this magnificent city is one of the cleanest, best administered, most modern cities in the world. And it's just an astonishing sort of vision that this country has achieved, maintaining its independence and balancing giants from all over the world. So hats off to Kazakhstan. What a wonderful country. And we think this country has a very, very bright future in the way it has managed to sort of work with everybody and for the benefit of humanity. It's probably a very good model for our planet that we find, maybe we should all be a little bit more like Kazakhstan because we all live on this little planet together, you know, and things are getting rather dangerous. There's 7 or 8 billion of us here. And so this country has a tremendous future, in my considered opinion. It's great to be here.
Let's come back to how you balance competing interests and geopolitical issues a little bit later. But first,
with difficulty.
Many of the people here will have seen that you met the president of Kazakhstan, President Tokayev, yesterday.
Yes.
I'm sure the president would have no objection to you telling us exactly what was said in that room, right? But no, in any case, what did you talk about, and what did you make of the president?
I can't talk about the honor of meeting.
Come on, we won't tell anyone.
He speaks several languages. His English is perfect. And his clarity of thought and his demeanor would make him more appropriate for president of the world than the president of just this country. If we had more leaders like him, the world would be more cooperative, more balanced, and more looking towards our children and our grandchildren. The polarization we face is illogical and profoundly dangerous. And so I have the deepest respect for the vision of the Kazakh government. How they've developed this country is amazing. There are few of these sort of what were middle income countries that have managed to kind of stitch the world together in a world that's balkanizing. In general, we've gone from an integrated world economy to a just-in-case economy, just in case there's a war or a disruption. Each nation is looking for their own supply chain. This country has both a very profound geological endowment in crude oil, in energy resources and in metals and in agriculture and in a huge, I think, an amazingly well-educated young population in the heart of Asia. What an incredible opportunity! And it's like a smaller version of China. Now, of course, Kazakhstan has benefited from proximity to China. China's had the world's greatest economic growth, but you also have investors from the West, and you also have the benefit of Soviet Union science and technology. So you're probably sitting right at the center of the world here.
So let's talk about critical minerals. 5 years ago, if we were having this conversation at a conference, you might expect it to have taken place in a tiny room in the basement of the venue. No one cared about critical minerals. No one cared about miners. But now, critical minerals, it's all you hear about. It's all the rage. It's discussed almost daily in the news. So as we all learn about critical minerals, what is it that we need to know? What is it that we need to know about mining that we don't already understand?
Everything you touch, we either grew it agriculturally or we mined it. We mined this microphone here, and we mined those steel chairs you're sitting on, and the mining is keeping the lights on up there. And it's all integrated because that which we grew, we could not have grown without mining, because the tractors and the implements and the fertilizers, we also mined. And in a world that starts to break itself apart into competing blocks, it becomes readily apparent that without an integrated world economy, each nation is at risk of not being able to maintain the sophisticated lifestyle we have in the modern world. So you can't get a Boeing aircraft, for example, without 1,000 different metals. And the situation could evolve that we all kill each other just by starving each other in the supply chain. Critical raw materials are absolutely necessary for the sophisticated technology systems we have today, and they're not evenly distributed on the planet. Some places are lucky and have a large endowment. For example, Kazakhstan is the largest producer of uranium in the world. In the world. Amazing. How did that happen? Why is the uranium here? Why is it somewhere else? So this is the mystery of geology, geological endowment. So this country had a Soviet Union era geological exploration, and the Russians were very good geologists. They were superb. And of course, Kazakhstan had nuclear weapons and had the Baikonur space launching capability. And then exploration sort of quieted down, and the country is actually underexplored relative to its geological potential. And in the last 20 or 30 years, just as Astana has risen as a new city, technology has changed very dramatically, enabling us to use very sophisticated software and new hardware systems. And we can do more exploration now in 5 years than we used to be able to do in 50 years. And so large open areas without a lot of people, because people are a problem for mineral exploration. You want open grassland. You don't want to disturb anything more than camels or sheep, a little bit, and as little as possible. Areas on the right trends become very interesting for sophisticated mineral exploration. And it's likely that less than 1% of what Kazakhstan has yet been discovered, even within the top kilometer or two.
What are you doing now, and how big, as the exploration continues in Kazakhstan, how big of a deal do you think Kazakhstan can become to the mining world?
Well, in the world of copper, if you're reading Copper Magazine, there are porphyry coppers which are like giant loaves of bread. They're as big as cities. They're very capital intensive. A typical porphyry at scale, if it's a tier 1 mine, is $5 or $10 or $20 billion of capital. And they occur here in Kazakhstan. That type of copper can occur here. But there's another type of copper, sedimentary copper, which is really oil field geology, but it's an oil field with copper in it. And the largest endowment of that type of copper is in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, The second largest is in Poland. The Poles have been mining sedimentary copper. It's the largest industrial enterprise in Poland. And the third largest basin of that type is here in Kazakhstan, and the least explored and the least understood. So we just put a few pennies into exploration here, working with Hollis Resources, a private company composed of geologists. We're tipping an initial $100 million plus or minus in stages to use our experience in Africa in this type of sedimentary copper to see what could be found here. And the potential is real. There are existing mines here of that type, and they'd be very important for the Kazakh nation to find them, because as Kazakhstan industrializes and makes a more modern country, it will need that copper right here for electrification and for national security. And then there are many other neighbors that want that copper. China is the largest importer of copper in the world, for example. But Kazakhstan is now going to grow so fast they'll want this copper for their own economy. And to find that here generates a lot of employment. And I want to assure everybody, this kind of mining does not hurt the earth. It's not open, you don't even see the open pit, it's mined underground. And now we have 3G wireless underground. We have broadband underground. We'll mine this with robots. I'd say one 18-year-old young woman with an iPad will be able to operate these mines. They'll all be mechanized. There'll be very little human labor involved. And so they're very, very attractive type of mineral occurrence to find, especially so near in the heart of Asia where there's such a big demand for these metals. If you're guilty of doing a Google search, any of you have done a Google search? If you touch that computer key and go, you're using the amount of electricity that a 100-watt bulb uses to run about 12 seconds. If you're doing an AI search and you touch that key for ChatGPT-4, you're using about 30 to 40 to 50 times more power, the power to run a light bulb for 3 or 4 minutes. And as all your kids are going to grow up on AI, and the world is going to run on this, there's an insatiable demand for uninterruptible power, and that will require copper metal and a lot of other metals that are used in the servers. A lot of people don't know what is involved in an AI server, but there are a lot of critical metals. There's about 20 of them that are needed to build a modern server farm. Now, if Kazakhstan has an endowment of these kinds of metals, Kazakhstan becomes like a little Saudi Arabia. And that potential is real. And what's amazing to me is that the presidency in this country and the government of this country has been very prescient in improving the fiscal framework for investing in mining. The government has opened the door to international capital and technology to do this, and that's a very good decision on the part of the government. And, you know, all the bees will come to the honey. You need a success to attract everybody. And one large mineral discovery here will drive everybody crazy, you know. And so we're back. We were here a long time ago. And it's just amazing for me to try to tell you how much this country has changed.
You touched on this, but you know, it won't come as a surprise to you that many people view the endeavor, there's this stereotype of mining, or this understanding that mining is somehow environmentally unfriendly. Talk to us about that perception and how you see mining technology changing, what you're doing to change mining technology to balance the need for these critical minerals with the need to address climate change, for example.
It's completely durak to think that mining is environmentally unfriendly. Durak. Anything you want to do to improve the environment requires these metals. If you want solar power or wind power, if you want batteries, you want electric cars, you want anything to give a cleaner and better lifestyle for your kids, you need to mine those critical raw materials. If you want to use crude oil in a cleaner way to make plastics or to make lighter cars, half the cost of building an electric car is the hydrocarbon in that car. to make the plastics in that car. You need to mine. You just need to mine in a better way, in a different way. Our ancestors used to club each other over the head with clubs. The military has changed. But all solutions for a world with 8 billion people in it require us to change the way we mine, to do that in a better way. And I can assure everybody here, mining has changed a lot. The managers of the major mining companies think differently. And there's no rational criteria to complain about mining. Now, if you eat meat, maybe the cow is not happy when it's slaughtered. And if you pull a carrot out of the ground, maybe the carrot screams if you're a vegetarian. But the rock doesn't apparently feel anything when you're underground driving a tunnel. Maybe it's a kind of violence to a rock. Do you think a rock can feel pain? I'm not sure. But we have to do something as human beings to look after each other in a cleaner and better way. Now, this whole city is amazing. I can't believe the scale of this. When I first came here, there was nothing here really but snow. Everything that you see here was mined. The steel and the concrete and the cabling and the power and the power generation, everything is mining. So let's not talk about Durak people who think that you can live without mining. In the Colorado School of Mines, this is America's best mining school, they have bumper stickers on the cars. One says, "Earth first, we'll mine the other planets later." And the other one is, "Stop mining, we'll let the bastards freeze in the dark." So we just don't have a better world without mining. We just have to do it in a better way. Now, the Mongolians, my brothers from Mongolia, they're your cousins here. They have a big new mine, Oyatolwe. Close to $20 billion has been invested in that mine. We found it in the Gobi Desert in 1998 to 2001 period. And it's completely operated by Mongolians, young Mongolian men and women that weren't really trained in mining. They were traditional herders. They have camels and goats and sheep, and maybe they came from the camp. They had no background at all in mining. We trained them. And I think, I don't know the exact, maybe 93%, maybe 94% of the employees are young Mongolians. And that mine is a huge enterprise that will run for 100 people for the Mongolian people. And the nice thing about it is nobody can take that mine away from the Mongolians. It's a gift from Genghis Khan because he held that land. No foreign mining company can pick it up and take it home. So if somebody finds a mine in your country, it's yours. It's yours. If you bite the hand of the foreign investors, they might not come back and give you more money, but that mine is yours. So it would be very good for Kazakhstan to develop its mineral industry to scale, and the government has been correct and visionary in these new policies. We're very happy to say that.
I know two things that you're concerned about in general when it comes to critical minerals is the amount of electrical energy that is used to quite literally crush the rock after you've got the ore out of the ground. And so I want to ask you about the technology you're working on to improve how that's done.
Yes.
And also how you can unlock energy and power through mining.
If you take the electricity to run one of those light bulbs for 10 minutes, it's a very small amount of electrical energy. In American dollars, it would be 0.00001 of a penny. I don't know in tenge, but it's not much money to run a light bulb 10 minutes. But if you take that small quantum of energy and you squeeze it and release it in a billionth of a second, it has the power of a nuclear power plant for a billionth of a second. A lot of people don't understand the difference between energy and power, but you can create a huge amount of power with a very small amount of energy. In former Soviet Union, this work was done in Tomsk in Siberia, where the Soviet Union had a center of excellence in pulse electrical power, mainly for atomic weaponry. That same core principle can be used to crush and grind rock with a huge reduction in energy, and it can be used to look into the earth. When I was a boy, we had Superman comics, And Superman when he wasn't Superman, his name was Clark Kent. And they would change it to a Superman outfit and become Superman. But Superman had the ability to look through walls. He could see right through walls, you know. We have the ability now with a magic pair of glasses to look right into the earth. We can see 3 kilometers deep, and we can see water, we can see gold, we can see copper, we can see any electrically conductive metal, orders of magnitude than we were able to do even 5 years ago. This requires us to compress electrical energy and inject very powerful bursts of energy into the earth. And if there's water, water is electrically conductive. If there's metal, metal is electrically conductive. It will absorb that electrical energy and discharge it more slowly than the unmineralized area. Let me explain again. If we take a 1957 Volkswagen Beetle and we bury it 2 or 3 kilometers deep, without going down there, we can image it like a CAT scan or MRI and show you that it's not a 1958 Volkswagen Beetle by the shape of the rear bumper. And we could never do that before. You remember when you were a kid, somebody would have a metal detector on the beach looking for a gold coin. But that metal detector could only see a few inches deep.
Otherwise, we'd be
Now we can
very
look down
rich.
Kilometers. Another way of saying it is that Ryan and I go scuba diving off of San Francisco, California. He's got his wetsuit, I've got his wetsuit. The water's cloudy, and he swims up to me, and I think it's my friend Ryan until I put on my goggles, and with more resolution I realize it's a great white shark. The problem in mineral exploration is we don't have the resolution, the sharpness. And so new technology has evolved to enable us to look in the earth in an unprecedented way. And that's really important for a nation like Kazakhstan that's so big. If you go fishing and you have a very small net, let's have a little net in my hand here. I'm only going to catch a little fish, little goldfish. But if you have a giant net, you might catch a whale, but you can't catch a whale in a little net. So a nation like Kazakhstan that's very big, has a very large land mass, must have sleeping under that land mass several supergiant mineral deposits, several. But we can't do it the old-fashioned way. It's just too expensive and too time-consuming. So there is technology now available to speed up the exploration process.
I'm not sure exactly how much time we have. If anyone knows, please do let me know, because I don't have a clock up. We have 5 minutes. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then let me briefly ask you, just real quickly, if you could answer how you can use that same technology to crush rock, and also how you can use it to unlock energy. Maybe if you...
So since we were cave people, we've been crushing rock to break it into little pieces, and smaller down to sand and then talcum powder, and then get the metal out. That's what we have at Oyu Tolgoi. We have giant factories to do that in Mongolia, for example. You have that here in your copper industry. We have a completely different approach. We're tearing rocks apart from the inside. And we're doing that with about an 80% reduction in energy. And that changes the definition of what is ore, which is rock that you can mine at a profit. And it's very green because you don't have to build giant power plants to run the mines. So the important thing to tell the young Kazakh nation is that you have an incredible government. You really have an incredible government of young Kazakh people. And looked from the perspective of one lifetime, all the accretion of all the technologies that the world is developing, like artificial intelligence, or new ways to crush and grind rock, or new ways to explore, will really help this country explode in economic growth. This country has an enormously attractive future in mineral exploration and development. Probably a lot better than you think or know or can even imagine. And the changes that are coming in the next 5 years in technology are really mind-blowing, especially on our ability to find these things in the first place and then to mine them in a better way.
So you're exploring for copper here in Kazakhstan. Obviously, copper is necessary for the electrification of the planet. There's also a lot of concern about let's say in the United States, in the West, around the world, as you were talking about, in countries' abilities to secure the critical minerals they need. So, but I wanted to ask you, for example, battery technology is changing so quickly. How do you know what to look for? And do we need to be concerned, for example, that nickel or cobalt or manganese or lithium are things that we may not have access to tomorrow?
So if you have an electric car, the reason you need a battery is you don't want to drive down the highway with an extension cord and keep it plugged in. And if you're going to have a humanoid robot, he or she will run on a battery for sure. And battery technology is also changing very dramatically. And the new generation of batteries that we're working on, this is American technology, uses no nickel and no cobalt and no graphite and no manganese, but it does need lithium as a metal. And so battery technology is evolving extremely rapidly. And the next generation of batteries, you'll plug in your iPhone and it'll run for 2 weeks before you charge it again. And the same thing is coming to the electrification of the automobile. We're just beginning an incredible acceleration in technology, mind-blowing. And all of these technologies are coming together, and I'm happy to tell you mining is part of that. And mining is the stupidest, most old-fashioned of all industries, and thus benefits the most from all this new technology that's coming to the world.
And on that note, because I think this may be the last question,
Yeah.
what gets you most excited about the future of mining and mining technology? What technology, what capability do you see that may be coming that gets you really excited?
I'm obsessed with pulse electrical power. When Thomas Alva Edison was alive, he thought that the world was going to run on direct electrical current. He got in a big fight with George Westinghouse and Nikola Tesla, who predicted the world would run on alternating current. About 97% of the electricity in the world is alternating current. I don't want to get into the war of the currents, but these guys did have a big fight over it. There is a third way to use electrical energy, which is pulse electrical power, and that will change everything. And it'll make life better for your kids and your grandkids and give us all a reason not to kill each other. It's really a bad idea to kill each other. It's really a good idea to leave a better future for our kids and our grandkids. I'm very happy to say I'm sure Kazakhstan is going to be a very, very important part of it. I couldn't be happier with our visit here. And I'm very deeply enamored with the people I've met, both the ministers and the time and the privilege I had to meet with your president.
Robert Friedland, please join me in giving Robert a big round of applause.